Hello, our friends, Evolutionary Energy Arts family.
Hello there.
So, guys, we want to share with you just this morning's message that came through with meditation from the Pleadian High Council and Laurel.
I'm still coming out of that. Can you?
she's still coming back to full consciousness,
Yeah.
waking consciousness. So, what Cindy was getting was visions of all sorts of animals attacking. And when we asked about this, what's the symbology here? It's that there are things in the works and there are things being planned um, that are going to instigate again that whole divide and conquer mentality in order to control us. We're coming up to a critical time. We can feel it. We know it. We've been talking about these certain dates that have tremendous potential for impact with us.
Yeah, I remember a little bit now. They were showing me different animals, all different kinds of predatorial animals is what I was seeing. Sharks, tigers, honey badgers, snakes, everything that was attacking. And yeah, I guess that was symbolic. They are taking out the big guns.
Yeah, and when you look at like the headlines, you see that there's a certain program underway that's not um, it's not achieving what it desired to what they had desired for it to achieve.
Mm-hmm.
So this is what happens. They escalate. It's just a simple escalation. This whole way that they have divided and conquered us is so obvious to so many, and still we see it. I see it in comments every morning when I start to go through some of the comments from the video, and then you see people that don't realize, they think you know they're one of the only ones that has a solution because of a certain way of thinking, and whether that's that left or right, whether it's any particular um, religious viewpoint, they view everything else as being just evil.
Mm-hmm.
But obviously that's complete ignorance. It's so, and the ignorance is what allows atrocities to occur. It's dangerous to be that ignorant, and think that, well, everybody else that doesn't believe exactly as I do is just pure evil. This world is just a million shades of gray. Although for sure there are those powers that be that don't have the best interest of humanity, that view humanity as a resource to be controlled, to be manipulated. And we see this in this whole top-down society. What we need to do, and especially here in the U.S. with what's happening right now, is we got to recognize that we're going to have to agree to disagree when it comes to the geopolitical situation. They've kind of set it up so that it's going to be explosive and volatile either way. Either way, whatever ends up manifesting, you're going to have, somewhere around 45% of the country extremely disappointed, to the point where they will feel like, I can't go through 4 more years of this either way. And, again, this has been cultivated by design. If you will take a step back, as so many of you guys can, get yourself into a sense of Buddhist detachment and not pulled in emotionally, and then recognize just how much yin and yang has been going on as we've swung from one extreme to another. It's all about keeping that pendulum going. And, that pendulum is turning into a battering ram that is up at the apex and about to come straight down towards our faces right now.
Yeah, and it is about realizing our power to change things and influence energy and not feeling like we're victims and we're helpless. They're artists at this. They have this down to a fine science in making people feel like they don't have the power or ability to change anything. But if we do step back into our own selves, into our own souls, and channel this energy correctly to a solution, then that's going to make a difference.
Yeah, this is a top-down control system that we have to turn upside down. This system is absolutely broke. As we have said, you're not fixing this with a Band-Aid. You can't just, keep sticking holes into the dam. The dam is going to break, and the dam has to break because the system is so irrevocably corrupt. It cannot be fixed. It has to be totally done away with, and we have to come up with something that's going to work for all. And so 45% on one side, 45% on the other side, maybe 10% that recognizes the whole thing is completely contrived.
Right. So we all need to come up with a solution that's going to work for us and send our energy toward that solution.
Again, it's time to recognize we're going to have to agree to disagree. And what's that going to look like when you have a country that looks like this?
I know it does look like there could be quite a lot of conflict.
The potential's there, and we don't even know how accurate this map is. And this is, again, a county result map, of which, of course, it has been disputed. As we see, we get notifications all the time. This is being disputed. Our reality is being disputed, and it's time for us to dispute the reality.
It is, because we have that ability, and that's one of the things that they hide from us is, it's the most important thing they hide from us is our ability to create positive change.
So, again, it's time to recognize this, and we're going to end up being much more like things were in the olden days. Now, recognize this top-down control system needs big institutions to be in place. It needs to have things unified. As we know, there is a one global worldly order being put into place. They need it that way because if take each one of these counties. If each county was autonomous, how hard would that be to control? Think about that. Look at all the counties that are there. There's hundreds and hundreds, thousands of counties. If every single one was totally autonomous, making its own decisions, how hard would that be to control?
Oh my gosh, that would really be a nightmare for them to try to control something like that. They probably wouldn't be able to, not without their one way system.
Yeah, one way, their way, and that's the reality of it. It's a system, again, top down, of a tiny percentage of the population, and when you get down to it, it's a tiny percentage. We might have 10% of the population in certain countries that's exceedingly wealthy, but they're still not part of the real control group. When you get down to it, they are just simply maybe reaping the benefits. The way the system is set up, too, it's often the case that the more you can look away and deny the reality of it, the better you're going to do. If you could kind of turn your head and like take a Christmas Carol. We watched a Christmas Carol on Christmas Eve just for traditional sake. And you see, Scrooge go through his thing, and then all of a sudden his heart melts, and, he's a happier being because, things don't bring happiness at all. And, like I got a real estate alert today to a property. It's like, $4 million. I don't know, in my mind, I can't conceive of having a property that costs $4 million. It just boggles my mind when, for us, we're more looking at things that are, just in 5 digits or less, because, again, we don't want to sell our soul to the system. And that's been one of my greatest fears as I've awakened is I don't want to sell my soul to the system. Yet the system will keep us down and take the power away from us if we buck it. And it's designed that way. It's totally designed that way. So again, we need to agree to disagree. We have to come up with an amicable solution. Because, what we're getting is that, there are things planned to make this extremely explosive. The next week in history may go down as one of the most explosive weeks in American history. And, of course, the world itself is going through the same sort of trials and tribulations that this country is.
Mm-hmm. And, without stepping into fear or without making, possible future predictions in your own personal life, so this is a really fine line. This is very difficult. Just stay prepared, but don't fall the way of fear, but be prepared for this 3D world to change on you a little bit.
It is. And so, when we get back, we have some errands to run. We'll be doing a video. I was thinking today again on doing another video on exactly how do you raise your vibrations, exactly how do you protect yourself in this time, because we are under assault from so many different things. And I think it's kind of dangerous right now. A lot of the stuff that's out there making the rounds, portraying things as if there are no real dangers out there, because we don't want to have our head in the sand. Because you could stick your head in the sand all you want. You could dig a nice hole, stick your head in the sand, right? If this guy is walking around you, circling you because he's hungry, it's not going to keep him from devouring you, even though you can't see him. He's still going to go ahead and latch on and have his meal. So we can't stick our head in the sand. We have to be realists in some ways, but recognize at the same time we are co-creators. And so we have to, again, get past this, which keeps us just basically fighting each other. We have to recognize, again, it's a top-down system, and we're controlled. Just think about when I look at the stimulus that they want to send out to everybody, to me, it's just like, okay, these are bribes. Mm-hmm. These are bribes, because in reality, what's happened is so many people have lost their independence through, losing their restaurant, losing their small business, just having their work shut down. This is all taking power away from the people, putting it firmer into control of the power of the real powers that be. And, when we're all getting basic income, it's just basically slavery when you get down to it. All freedoms will be gone. And, it's a matter of many people will comply, they'll be just first in line. Oh, yeah, sure, free money. Yeah. But again, you're selling your soul to the powers that be. When everything is said and done, and we come out of this time period, things are going to look a lot more like they did with the indigenous people when they were on, for instance, this land. And, again, many don't even recognize the fact that, the Europeans came here and took everything. They conquered, and they gave us this whole system. There were hundreds of tribes living independently, doing their own thing on the land, and also in harmony with the land. They weren't destroying the land. They weren't pumping oil out of the ground. They weren't putting poisons and toxins into the ground. They respected the earth as their mother, and they also respected the great spirit, the great invisible spirit. They lived in harmony, and they lived in tribes, and that's what's going to end up coming back around again, is living more in a tribal type of society, broken down into smaller groups that understand a certain way of life, want to live a certain way. Because when it comes down to it, I could think of some of our family members who we love dearly, and yet, if we got them together, it would be combustible. Yes. Because their politics are completely the opposite. So it's time for people to kind of come together in these groups that suit you.
Right. Compatibility is not something that can be just shoved aside. Compatibility is critical, and like Mike was saying, we have beautiful family members, but boy, would they rip each other to shreds, I mean, it just makes me sad. I would like for people to be able to work through their hearts through their love and their light for a common goal, and, push the belief systems to the side and just wish for a soft landing.
Exactly. So, like I'm looking at this and I see Cherokee here and Creek down there. And so these are Cindy and I's backgrounds, although, my like great grandmother was born over in Oklahoma, eastern Oklahoma, on a reservation, because of the Trail of Tears and all. It's sad what's been done. Anywhere from 60 to 100 million native indigenous people that were here in the Americas were killed, wiped out. That's an enormous genocide. It dwarfs World War II's genocide. And it was because of that consolidation of power, control of the resources, control of the wealth. We've talked about, like in Nevada, for instance, 86% of land is owned by the government. 86%. 50% of California is federally owned. Now, they say it's because of protecting natural resources, but again, when we look at the Crown owning 90% of Canada, Australia, and New Zealand, is it really all about protecting? Well, if they're protecting, why are they fracking? Why are they poisoning? Why are they spreading GMO seeds and having farmers plant things that they're not going to be able to salvage their seeds, and that might change things genetically and alter things? It's time to call the BS for what it is. It's BS. It's total crap, so to speak, and the system has to change, but we must not allow ourselves to be so divided and thus conquered that we are eternally battling amongst ourselves.
Very, very important to keep in mind. Try to understand these things and make way for a new way of life. Be flexible with your belief system, because a lot of it with our belief systems, that can really hold us in a space where we feel we don't have a lot of power.
Exactly, and it's time for us to take our power back, and that's what they were showing us again. They gave Cindy the vision of a figure 8, because it's not just, think about a figure 8 as like a racetrack.
Yeah.
And just imagine that, you're out on that track, and the cars are going to come around, and you're going to have to dodge them quick. And, you might dodge this round, but they're coming right back around again. This time they're coming from behind you. So you're going to have to dodge again. There's going to be a series of events that we have to be on our toes. We have to not be pulled down. But at the same time, we don't want to stick our head in the sand while there's a lion that's hungry, that's roaming, looking to eat.
Yeah, that's really important to keep in mind.
Yes. So, as always, guys, thank you so much for your support on Ko-Fi and Patreon. Keep your spirits up. And we'll be putting out a video later on today specifically about protecting yourself in every way, strengthening yourself, using your power as well to manifest a best outcome for each of us and all of us. There's a lot of things we're facing, and we can overcome, and we will, and they know that because they're frustrated because things are not working as they wanted. And that makes, again, a wounded animal is a dangerous animal.
Extremely dangerous.
God bless, and namaste.
Namaste.